Okay. All right. So, recording the first episode of our podcast for the PBC.
Yep.
Today we're going to look at the upcoming World Series between the Phillies and the Yankees for 2043.
Yep. We should probably explain who we are before we get
Yes.
into that.
I think we've got a bit of an echo from
Probably
me
a
onto
little
your.
Yeah, let me lower the volume again.
Let's fix that first.
Is that better?
Let me check. Yep, that's better. All right. Sorry for the technical hiccup. Right. So yeah, I'm Jonathan. I'm the Mariners GM, new to the league this year.
Yeah. I'm Robert. I'm the Giants GM and co-commissioner.
Yep.
And founding member.
Lovely.
And winner of 0 World Series titles.
And none this year either. But so we've got the Phillies and Yankees playing the World Series tonight.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
It's going to be good. I think we've had an interesting playoffs, would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. It's Philly has had a really interesting run, beating Cincinnati, and then Arizona was like I don't know if they were like elite, but they were really hot, you know.
And I think even before Cincinnati, you've got the series against Mexico was not easy.
Yeah, that too.
Mexico were leading their division most of the year.
Yeah, Mexico has been a very, very good team for a very long time now.
Yeah, and they got upgrades in the offseason. TJ Geller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Geller's great. He was, I believe, he was a former first overall pick. Can check that really fast.
And yeah, I think he came into free agency for the first time after playing for the Mariners. And
doesn't.
Yeah, so
he was a first overall pick. That was the year the draft didn't import, right? But he was the first overall pick. Yeah. Geller is, I like his speed. I like his stealing. Honestly, I think that he probably hasn't hit his like maximum potential because the stolen base numbers is only up to like, he's maxed out at 45 in a year. With 80 stealing and 70 speed, I'd expect 50 or 60, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I'd be interested to know what his strategy's been over the years in terms of what the GM has set it.
Yeah, I like setting the strategy like maximum steal when they have at least like 65, 70 speed and 70 steal.
Yeah, for sure.
You see the boys run around the base paths, zooming.
He's coming off a rough first year in Mexico.
Yeah, some guys have trouble adjusting, I've noticed.
For sure. And I mean, if we think about it, moving to an entire different country can't be easy.
It'd be fun if that was modeled in game, you know? Like, I know Football Manager models that stuff.
Yes. And I think you can send players on intensive language courses.
Yeah, I think language should absolutely be a thing in Outback Baseball. There's so many Spanish speakers in this game, and East Asia is becoming more and more important as a source of talent for the major leagues.
For sure.
So I would make a lot of sense to have, translation issues or things like that.
I think that turns into, one of the, especially in real life, you've got guys like Alex Cora who speaks both English and Spanish, and it's been a massive boon for the organization.
Yeah, that's also, I believe, why Gabe Kapler was originally hired, because he spoke Spanish. Or one of the reasons, not the main one. Although the Giants actually hired a new manager today. So,
who did
they got Bob Melvin from the Padres, former A's manager. Very excited about that.
Yeah.
No idea why the Padres would let him go, because he was still under contract. But
it was mildly relieved at that, because it means you didn't get the old Red Sox boy.
Oh, who's that? They just fired him. That's GM, though, isn't it?
No, you were looking at getting. Who was it you were looking at getting? Well, I've forgotten his name. Old Red Sox catcher. I'm blanking.
It wasn't Cora, was it?
No.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Veritek?
Veritek.
Yeah, Veritek. Catchers always make good managers, you know?
Yeah, you've got Ross in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, he was. I know this before you're from baseball, but that was such a dynamic run he had with Chicago. Like, I've never seen a player become that beloved by a fan base while doing that little for the team, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like he wasn't a fun player or a good player, but like he was a backup catcher, man. Like, and he was one of those popular players on the team. It was insane.
Yeah, and he came over from the Red Sox after winning in 2013 with them.
Yeah, do you know why they added him? There's a very specific reason.
Oh, right?
Yeah, do you know why?
No.
It's because David Price, he was his personal catcher.
Yeah,
I believe it was Price. It might have been someone else, but it was a no, not Price. It was someone they took from the fucking
Red Sox.
Cubs rotation 2016. Really fast. Kyle, no, was it Hendricks? I'll check really fast. I feel like I should
have a look at that. Going back to TJ Geller, while you look at that, he does actually have low adaptability, so that could go some way to explaining it.
Yeah, I've noticed that definitely can matter. John Lester, that's who I was thinking of.
John Lester.
Yeah, they signed him after they signed Lester.
There was a lot of upset in Boston about Lester leaving, another homegrown talent gone.
Yeah.
And the rotation never really been the same.
Although he didn't do a ton, I think, after he left. He led the league in wins in 2018, but who cares about that? Like, that's not something either of us didn't care about. He did make 2 All-Star games, but he was paid a lot of money, so I don't know if that's a deal you should feel bad about missing out on, you know?
I think there's a lot of deals the Red Sox look back at where the fans have been upset that a player hasn't been signed long-term, but then you look at what they've gone to do long-term, and it's not been so great. And the ones that they have taken, that Chris Sale contract, some of the other contracts that were signed in the aftermath of 2013, 2018, they've not looked good.
Yeah, I know the Cubs as well. They a lot of fans were upset when they did not extend, Baez and Bryant and Rizzo and everyone. But look at how those guys are doing now. They would not be a good team, you know, and they'd be paying $500 million to 3 guys that are at best league average now, you know.
And speaking of guys who maybe shouldn't have got the length of contract, having a look at the Yankees for the series, Hugh Janus. He's 38. Hugh Janus, 38.
Oh, Hugh Janus, yeah.
And he's got
that's a fun one.
Another 2 years on that contract at 27 mil. That's not looking so hot.
That's a lot of money. I don't know. That said, half of it's being retained by Mexico, so it's not that bad for New York specifically.
No,
but
I think it's a big Hugh Janus World Series.
Yeah, Hugh Janus is actually an interesting story. So he was a creative prospect, unsurprisingly, right, with that name. But this was not the original name of this prospect. I don't know if you know about the cheating scandal, but there was a commissioner cheating scandal.
I did hear about this.
Yeah, this was in 2029. I actually was on hiatus, but I still know a lot about it. So a guy named JT Casanella ran the league for like 2 or 3 seasons. And he was a founding member. He ran the Royals. He stepped down. And around the time he stepped down, Anthony and I believe someone else, but I don't remember who, maybe David or Kyle from Kyle Giants or David in RLB. Yeah, one of those guys maybe. Anyways, JT had some very unusual boosts from his players. So they started watching it very heavily. And it just kind of turned out every time he simmed, his players would boost again. And then he started begging for a sim, basically. And after he did that, like 6 of his guys boosted. And then they're like, hey, we know you're cheating. So he was removed. All of the players he admitted to boosting, which we're not sure if those are all the ones he edited, but at a minimum, they're all retired now, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, 14 players were retired, including Juan Soto. So if you look at Juan Soto in PBC, you'll see that his career very abruptly ended, at the age of 30, which halfway through the season, right? But it's because he was edited.
Right.
So, anyways, he won back to Hugh Janus. He won the World Series in 2027, like 2 years before this, and that was his creative prospect. And Anthony changed it to that because he didn't want. I think it was like, I don't know what the original name was at this point. I think it's literally been lost to time, but it was something that was like very annoying for people, and like JT Jr. or something, like that kind of annoying thing. So, it was a bit ridiculous, honestly. Like, it's like, just who feels the need to cheat at like this kind of stuff? Like, this doesn't matter enough.
It's all based on trust here, and I think I'm glad that the league got past that.
That's not an easy thing to survive.
And it's nice to see that Hugh Janus, even though he may get a ring, will not be playing any part in these playoffs.
I mean, I don't have a problem with like the player or anything. Like, it's not his fault that JT, the player's fault. He's definitely going to be like, Hugh Janus will make the Hall of Fame, right? But it's like, even then though, man, like, I don't know if I can vote for him though. As I'm saying this,
that is quite brutal though, to break your kneecap in playoffs, just before the World Series.
I think that happened with David Summers, just before the playoffs started. But he was out for basically the entire playoffs until the World Series, which he came back and he was cold as hell.
Yeah, I think looking at this playoff series, we've got sort of a tale of two very different teams. You've got the Phillies, who have a core of very good hitters. There's very few guys there that in that starting lineup that aren't hitting above 100 in terms of WRC, and their pitching there's some good pieces there. Malesio, Bennett, both having very good seasons. But you've got some of those back end guys like Ramos, who I'm not so keen on. Medina as well.
There's another couple. Here's who I'm watching in this series is Antonio Lorenzo Catarini. So this is a really interesting player, right? He's a creative player. He has 8 Gold Gloves. He definitely is a Hall of Famer, right? And he signed to a massive contract with an opt-out after this year that he's almost assuredly not taking, right? But the reason why I think it's really interesting to watch is the Phillies have Omari Wilridge, who is incredible. He's got to be one of the best catchers, like offensive catchers of all time, right? Yeah. So it's just really interesting to see how they play that. And I feel like you almost are going to want Wilridge at DH, and it looks like that's what they're doing, actually, which is kind of insane. But I like it.
If I look at the season, he's only played 328 innings at catcher. So I think he has been their full-time DH this year.
Yeah. I think 320. So he's a backup catcher and full-time DH. It's like really, really interesting. I like that a lot. But like, look at that bat against righties, man. That's just 55 contact, 75 power, 75 eye against righties as a catcher.
Yeah,
that's just incredible.
With his speed, we're not paying that much attention to gap power. So
exactly.
Yeah, he's done a lot. Low work ethic, but he's managed to get there, and he's not even that bad behind the plate either.
No, he's not good behind the plate. He will cost you runs, but he's not going to kill you. He can definitely play defensively, play well enough to start for at least a decade, which way you want.
And Cacciarini is, I think he's not the player he used to be, perhaps, but I think he's got enough in him to get this ring.
He is still a very strong defensive catcher, and he's still an okay hitter. He's not like, I think he's about average. And I also think his framing this year was a notable overperformance. But so like, he will probably not have a season this good again, right? Like, I don't think there's another all-star berth in it for him. I don't think there's another even like another approximately 5 war season.
No.
But he could I'm curious to see how he'll do in this playoff series. I know that he historically has not performed exceptional in the playoffs. Like, he hasn't been bad, but he's been like about what you would expect, you know? That said, how many rings has he won? Like 7 or something?
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it's
4 times.
3.
4.
It's
4.
3 or 4 rings. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go history accomplishments, we'll say championship winner 4 times.
Yeah. But I think that arm of his is going to be interesting this series. You've got
New York has some speedy guys.
who's going to be, he's going to be licking his lips with 39 stolen bases this season.
Yeah, and Blackstock, I would give him the green light too.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
And I think Battistella could maybe get more of the green light too. He's not quite so fast, but 75 stealing.
Stealing is what matters here. Speed determines how often guys steal. Stealing determines their success rate.
Yep. And I think even Nichols, 70 speed, 60 stealing. I'm a little confused as to why he's got caught so much why he's got caught so much.
What? Sorry.
I got a bit of audio feedback from you there. A little confused as to why he's been caught so much.
Who, Jeffer or Nichols?
Oh, your mic's going there. Sorry for the difficulty.
That happens. My mic does that.
Yeah, so Nichols, a little confused as to why he's been caught 5 times, stolen 7 with that speed and that stealing.
Probably just sample size. Like, I would expect him to succeed, 3/4 of the time? So 9 out of 12 instead of 7 out of 12. That's not a huge difference.
For sure. And I think he could be a good guy to run on the...
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would...
training.
Yeah, if I was a ratio, it would definitely pump up the stealing a bit here, just given the weak arm. Although, honestly, there aren't exactly a lot of good arms in this league, No. It's not like outside of Paul Pixel, who is someone I can talk about endlessly, so we probably shouldn't get started on that. There are not many good arms,
Defensively, there's Ken Terrian, the catcher on the Mariners, 70 catcher ability, a 50 arm.
Yeah, that's fine. But again, I'm talking specifically about arm, not like catcher defense.
Let me do a quick search. If you want to talk about Pixel for a little bit.
Yeah, Pixel's a fun prospect. I think I probably pushed him a little bit too much, because I did technically create him, but I also did not think he was going to be like half this good, So, and like when I was making him, I also did not expect to draft him at all. I had someone in mind who declined right before the draft, so I had to scramble and ended up with Pixel. And actually, I actually think he would have been the better pick if he had not immediately declined or started declining. I think his name was Manise or something. And he was on the Diamondbacks. He was an amazing first baseman. But yeah, Pixel won the MVP last year. He had similar level of WAR this year. He's already won 3 Gold Gloves in his 5 years in the league, and that's not including this year. Although, what was his frame this year? Yeah, he wasn't a great defender this year. Traditionally, he had a very, very weird defensive year. Listen to these stat lines, all right? 7.1 zone rating for a catcher, which is incredibly high. 9.7 frame, right? 71% runners thrown out.
Why are they still running?
They're not. He only threw out 30 guys.
What?
So he allowed 13 steals or something, all season. I think he should win
the modern MLB.
I'll probably vote. I mean, I'll definitely vote for him for Gold Glove. I don't know if everyone else will, but I will definitely vote for him for Gold Glove.
I think Luna is the other guy if we're looking at very good defensive catches with an arm. He's at 60 for arm, 70 for ability. And he's pairing that, of course, with some decent offense. And I think he was an important part of the Cincy run this year.
Yeah. He's a good one. All right.
But after that, in terms of players with an arm above 60, you're dropping down to the Pat Lorquette, who is a backup catcher on the Brewers. Oh no, I think he might have been a starter actually. Not sure. You're looking at Hayes.
Did you shout out Hei-Chan Yu? You shout him out? He's pretty good. Let's see.
How do you spell his surname?
Hae Chan. He's an 80 arm.
Bobcats. Ooh.
Yes. Yeah, he's pretty good. You probably, yeah.
He's not had a great season though.
No, he is not. Although that bat will do a lot better, and I'm pretty sure arm just isn't calculated in catcher defense war for some reason. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to ever impact Pixel's war from what I've seen. But
maybe a little bit of North Korean influence on the season this year. Still a bit.
Oh yeah, that was funny. I think this was right before you joined. I forgot he was a North Korean. Hei-Chan is North Korean, right? Yeah, okay. So he was the we did a free agent, like when I moved to free agency, I looked at the international guys and one of them was from North Korea, like naturally, right? Yeah. So I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And then my game crashed. So I'm like, fuck it. I'm like, does anyone care if I edit the South Korean to be a North Korean, give back what the game stole from us, that kind of thing? Nobody cared, so I changed them.
The interesting thing is that's made it almost more realistic because no one's going to, be able to sign from North Korea. So now it looks like he defected to South Korea and then signed from South Korea.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
You've made it even better.
Yeah, that's funny. Bobcats are an expansion team. They joined the league after the 34 season, so it's now 9 years in the league. Yeah. Not the greatest track record, but I think they got some young talent and really could.
Yeah.
To me, the Bobcats are one of those teams that are always 2 pieces away, and their farm just isn't quite ever up to the challenge of giving those last 2 pieces. But I like a lot of their guys right now, so I think they could easily make a run in a few years.
Yeah. Indeed, and we'll be having a look at them later on, along with a lot of the other teams. There's certainly some interesting stories this season and some interesting prospects going forward.
Who was the most surprising player for you this season?
Most surprising player. It wasn't surprising per se, but I was shocked at how fast Longacre had an impact so big.
Yeah,
Longacre, the third baseman on the Sultans.
Yeah. Well, actually, I believe he's a DH right now.
He is a DH.
Yeah, he's a DH most of this year because they have Kelly. Man, they got the Saltines got some really scary players. Honestly, that sort of Kelly, Pack, Longacre, Villarreal is going to be a really, really nasty top 4 for a very long time.
The question will be can they back that up monetarily wise for their pitching core?
Yeah, their pitching is the big question mark here for sure.
And I think that's one of the things that makes this World Series so interesting is that we've got the Yankees, whose hitting core is, if I'm going to be honest, questionable when you're looking at a World Series.
Yeah. But they got an insane bullpen and in the number 1 rotation in the league.
Yes.
So
I think you've got Jeff Rod is maybe the only guy on that starting lineup who I would be afraid of. Intentionally walk him occasionally afraid of.
I don't know if I'd necessarily be afraid of Janus, but he is a good, solid player, even if he is injured. He's
not Janus, Jeff Rod.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, Janus is someone else I would say is in that category if he wasn't injured. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And Blackstock, he's good. The problem is he just hasn't developed. His potential was incredible. he was supposed to be one of those guys, and he just didn't pan out.
Yeah, and I think going down that lineup, they've got some good role players. Goddard is unbelievable in the field.
Yeah. Goddard is I like Goddard a lot. I love 80 defenders at like shortstop and center field.
And I think it's a well put together roster in terms of the money has been spent wisely.
Yeah. And they don't have any holes. You know? No. I don't know. Are there holes? I'm trying to look for holes.
No, nothing. No one stands out on this roster except maybe Jeff Rod.
But I don't know who's going to be their DH with Janus gone is the only thing. So that could be a potential hold for them.
That could be. But when you look at their team, every single player, even if not particularly remarkable, does their job well.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, speaking of Jeff Rod, reminds me of another player that I think is absolutely worth checking out. His name is Luis Leal. He is absolutely one of my favorite players in the league. So, Leal is spelled Leal, very simple. But yeah, look at his stats in 2033. Because Luis Leal, he led the batting average. He led the league in batting average for 7 straight years, from 2032 to 2038.
Yeah.
He won back-to-back MVPs. What I like about his second MVP is that his batting average declined 45 points. His OBP declined 45 points. His slugging declined 100 points, which meant his OPS climbed 150 points, meaning his WAR dropped 3 by 3, and he led the league in every category except for OBP.
That's incredible.
So his average dropped by 50 points, and he led the league in a batting average. His WAR dropped by 3, he led the league in WAR, and his slugging dropped by 100 points, and he led the league in slugging. Like that. Do you see his 2033 season?
That's a Barry Bonds type player, where he's so good that he can, lose 30% of his performance and still be right up there.
Yeah, I like that he didn't just hit 400; he obliterated the mark, and then he didn't come close again. He just hit 420 and then exactly on the dot, which is also amazing, and then didn't play. Just didn't do it again, and no one's come close since. And part of that is not at all on the player. Part of that is after 2036, we updated from Albert Baseball 22 to Albert Baseball 23. And if you notice, that's where his contact falls off.
Yeah.
Because they toned down contact in 23 and toned up power. But what a player. He probably will get to 400, maybe 400 home runs, 70 WAR. If he gets to 3,000 hits, he's a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He might already be.
I think let's have a look at the pitching staff on the Yankees.
Because
I think
I get distracted.
A real star point for this series.
Yeah.
Josh Hall. I think the fact that he's been able to get 151 ERA plus in a league where starting pitching is not easy to come by. That's a 68 FIP minus. You're looking at league leading home run rates, whip. He's just elite all round.
Yeah, and what I will say about the Yankees is that while they do not have a star-studded lineup, everyone's a good defender.
Oh yeah.
So Jeff Hart is really more of a second baseman. He's at first. Drahar is honestly more of a shortstop. He's at second. Goddard is an 80 grade shortstop, so that's just their infield.
And that's making a massive. Their center fielder is, looking in that blue. I think that makes a massive difference to their pitching staff being able to go out there. Yeah. Their FIP is going to be good, but that's going to translate to ERA.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, they are first in zone rating as a team. But if you look at their pitching stats, it's actually kind of insane. They lead the league in basically everything. So ERA, WAR, hits allowed, opponent batting average, bat PIP, home runs allowed, zone rating, defensive efficiency. It's just they're just by every metric, they are the best pitching staff in the league.
And if you look at sort of almost incredible, if you look at their entire pitching staff that are currently on their roster as of last December, only 3 players have a FIP minus above 100. 2 of those are at 102, and the other guy is, I think, performing under what you would expect from him. So honestly,
so I think what we have here, to sort of steal from a little more old-timey lingo, is we got a very good, well-rounded roster versus a stars and scrubs lineup. And those are always interesting to me. I tend to favor the well-rounded roster in those scenarios.
I think for sure it gives them a more stabilized performance.
Yeah.
There's a far better chance that they can make, at least 3 of those games interesting. And then
for sure.
That 4th game, anything can happen.
Yeah, and it's also like, this Phillies team is going to be really high variance, right? Because they have a lot of, because if they're, top 3 players, their bats go cold, they're just screwed.
Yeah.
So,
with their sort of 4th pitcher in that series, they're looking at a potential blow-up game if things go wrong. And so that's potentially one game that's out of the window anyway.
Who are you looking at as their 4th pitcher? Medina, or
probably.
I like Medina. He's pretty good. I think he's better than Bennett, honestly.
What? Valdovinos?
Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the Phillies. Sorry.
Yes, Phillies. Valdovinos.
Valdovinos. I would assume he's starting a little before that, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. They do have Malesio, who, man, that was a wild trade. Malesio won the Cy Young as a reliever, I believe. Now that was an incredibly weak league, pitching year. You led the league in WAR with 6.2, but Malesio was so good. Those Pirates teams were so ridiculous, man. Because the problem is the pitching was too shut down, and they had the best defense in the league. It was just too backbreaking.
The Malesio's been in 2 big trades now. You've got that trade with the Pirates and Mexico, where he was moved along with Rams. Both of these guys, elite players. But then in exchange, you're looking at McCarthy, who's still with the Pirates. You're looking at Glaster, who's still with the Pirates, not with the Pirates anymore, at Cincinnati, but he is also very strong right now. And you've even got some guys.
None of the rest of the pieces have super panned out, though.
No.
See, I remember this trade because I was actually trying to get Malesio as well. And it's interesting because I think I was wrong about some of the pieces that he was getting back, but maybe right overall about the value, He was right about McCarty and Glaster being insanely valuable. I was right about Mercande and Skidmore being worthless. So
Skidmore's not looking good.
I'm curious if Anthony would run that one back if he could. I know he got some picks too. But even then, I feel like he probably won't run it back because he could have. I would have expected one more really good player out of that. He should have gotten one really good player for each of them, and then another really good prospect somewhere in there.
But it is also worth noting that he was 2 years away from being out of control. So
although he was willing to sign an extension at the time. And he did sign a pretty team favorable extension.
And then, of course, he was traded to the Phillies, where he pitches now. We've got Dave Gary, who we'll yet to see how he'll pan out. And Castro.
Gary's got some upside, though. He's a weird prospect. He's already 25. He's got to dev really fast for this guy for him to work out.
For sure. And I'm just going to have a look. Do you know who Mexico signed with their first round pick and second round pick?
I do not, because I think that hasn't happened yet. Oh wait, no. Sorry, 20. We're in 2043 now. I will look really fast. I wonder what the best way to check that is.
I used to know a good way of doing this.
I believe it was Amari Dunkins. Oh.
Let's see.
Mari Dunkins looks fine. He's in my division. I'm not like scared of him. He will be a good hitter. Will probably make a couple All-Star games. Won't be a MVP caliber guy unless he boosts.
Yeah.
Who did the Pirates take with the pick Mexico traded?
Past drafts.
Okay, it looks like Mike Bennett.
Draft by year 2042.
Yeah, Mike Bennett is quite solid.
Mexico City.
But he's also not in the Pirates.
The first round pick in 42 was Tim Wainwright for Mexico.
42. Well, they had 2 first rounders.
Yes. Do you know which it was?
It should have been. Yeah, if you go to Stats Plus has a better record of this. Also, I believe it was the 43 draft, not the 42 draft, my dude. Because he was. Yeah, because this was after the draft in 2042. So this would have to be the 2043 draft.
The trade was in March.
For
oh no, it's August. Sorry, I'm thinking European dates.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
It doesn't translate for you. That's funny.
Yeah, I have to manually do that translation.
Funny. Oh, does it? You can set it in pounds, right? Like I think you can set the money in pounds.
Yeah, I prefer to keep it in dollars, just because everyone else talks in these terms. I might as well get used to it.
Does it convert it, or does it just like? Does it convert the currency?
I don't know. I just keep it in dollars, and I keep the dates as they are. Just get used to it.
I believe the guy. It's actually kind of weird because I believe the guy who makes the game, or the first guy to make the game, obviously there's a company now, is German.
Yeah.
So kind of weird that he doesn't support.
Dunkins, I think. Obviously 2043 draft. I think we'll maybe talk about that a little bit later, but it's an interesting pick. I don't know whether he would have wanted to get more or not, but there we go. And the second round pick was Kevin Rowe, I believe.
That looks correct to me. Rowe is fine. He's nothing special. Like both these guys, I think are just generally going to be a little overrated by overall potential.
And Rowe has already lost a bit of his contact potential.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think without that power to rely on, I could see him busting.
Yeah, for sure. Especially a lot of prospects bust.
Yeah. Right. So Malesio, I think, will be, he'd be a stud for this playoffs. I would not be shocked to see both his games being pitchers' duels. I think we can look forward to a lot of very close games that the Phillies are able to maybe take. And
so you like so you're taking the Phillies, or that's what I was going to ask next. What's your prediction for the series?
My prediction: I want the Phillies to win. I want to see Cacciarini get that ring. I want to see Malesio get a ring here.
You mean his 5th ring, but yeah.
Yeah. I want to see some of the other guys that I think have been a little bit, not to say underrated, but have had great seasons for their ratings. Guys like Basemore, who are maybe, only going to get this opportunity once. And I'd love to see them get rings. I'd love to see, some of these great hitters who've had great seasons. Okonek has been insane. I'd like to see Dawson, at catcher, making that much of a difference with the bat. These guys, Dawson hasn't even won a ring yet. I think the Phillies are a more interesting team per se. The Yankees are they're the big bad Yankees in this series. You know,
I
they
think,
do
yeah,
they do
I think the
everything well. They've got a big
Yankees.
budget.
This may actually kind of surprise you because my team in RLB is very different than this, but the Yankees are very, very close to how I like to build teams. I did something different this year, that like in this run in PBC, but I love the like shut down defense, like don't even bother trying to score, it's not going to happen kind of thing, you know. We're like I just love having like every single pitcher that I have as an all-star. A lot of fun.
Yes. And I think the Yankees almost a little bit of a preview as to what the Twins are going to look like in the coming years. If you look at the Twins, they've got a lot of great pitchers coming up, some great defensive pieces. I think they're certainly very similar in the way they've been built.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anthony
think,
built a dynasty off of pitching. You know, makes a lot of sense. But I think he will be less successful in Minnesota. At least I hope. So.
Yes, I think another interesting thing to look at is how much the teams have spent this year. And their prospects going forward. So, I mean, you look at the Yankees; they're looking very healthy financially. You know, they've got 18 million budget space. Their payroll is only 176 million. You know, they're still committing that 27 mil to their development budget. Meanwhile, you look at the Phillies, and the Phillies, they've got almost half the attendance. Their payroll is up at 208 million. Their dev budget's down at 4.5, and they're already 8 million, almost 9 million over. So I think
the Phillies are very close to all in.
Yes.
I think, frankly, I probably would have traded some of these prospects, then go completely all in, you know. But
yeah,
they're a very good team.
I think if we don't see the Phillies win this year, they may have to, you know, really break that number 9 ranked farm system to be able to compete again.
I don't know if they'll have a ton of problems. Like, the game will not punish you for being under money, right? Because the main that doesn't matter as much online, you know, because the main detriment to being under money is getting fired, and we can't get fired. So it definitely is not as big of a deal as it would be in an offline game.
No, but it can be quite.
The main thing that makes me think they're not going to have a ton of issues here is they're not actually losing people. Like, they're going to free up 24 million because I assume they're going to decline Sample's option. They're going to, if by some miracle, like Guerra, opts out, they'll get another 20 mil, but that's not happening. They are losing Mulligan, but they're not really losing any other big pieces. Like a couple backups here and there, a few depth pieces. But I think like next year they should be good to run it back, and like after that they might have to figure something out.
For sure. I think the Yankees, we're looking at, you know, they're very near the bottom of the prospect rankings. Grootveld is their only guy that's even in the top the top 100, and I think you know, with the Braves getting some young pieces now coming in as well, they're going to drop further. I would not want to be them going forward with that, but we'll have to see.
I mean, he'll have to rebuild at some point, for sure. Then this team is not exactly young. Frankly, the Yankees probably should consider to rebuild in the not so distant future, solely because they just like Jeff Hard is just such a big part of this team. When he declines, you're screwed. I find a lot of these like elite teams still want like one hitter, you know, that you can rely on in a big spot.
Yep. And the Yankees are going to be looking at needing either to extend their catcher or to get a new catcher for next season. He's on a 1 year. But other than that, their lineup is pretty flexible until 2045. But pitching wise, Benegas is here for a long time. That's a long contract that's not going to age well. 2049 on a 30-year-old.
They're clearing Ayala off the books, which helps. Like Ayala is a good reliever, but a lot worse than he used to be. Now he's much more of like a middle reliever type. I still think he's probably better than 50 overall. Frankly, I think relievers tend to be underrated by overalls.
Yeah.
But
I mean, honestly, if you look at the Yankees,
former Giant.
If you look at the Yankees rotation, the only guy they're really losing is Heimer. And this is a fragile guy who's hit 30. He's a back end of the rotation on this team. He's replaceable, and all of the other guys, they're here to stay. Hall, 2048 that contract is looking really good. 12.9 million for this year, but he's going to be earning more, 24, 25, 28, and then some big player options at the end. But only going until 33 in a league where the pitching is not looking great. I take that contract.
Yeah.
Matthews hitting arbitration.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing. So there are two creative prospects on the Yankees. Can you guess who they are? I'm curious if you can get it. One of them I don't think should be very hard. What was that, sorry?
Hugh Janus, obviously.
No, he's on. Oh, sorry, three. I missed Hugh Janus because he's injured.
Let me see.
I would say one of these was actually a bit different. So we did a thing where the winner we did a baseball fantasy league, like fantasy baseball. I don't know what phrase like that.
Yeah.
And the winner got to make a 50 potential prospect instead of the 60 potential one.
Nice.
So one of them is that prospect, but
okay. Benegas?
No, not Benegas.
His personality description is not flattering. Loyal only to himself.
Personality is probably the number one indicator of a creative player.
Yes, I noticed that. You got Hulk Hogan on the Mariners, captain, brilliant personality.
Yeah. Now the other one is I don't want to keep you guessing for like an hour here. The other one is Heimer, and then Taylor Swift Ward.
Okay. Yeah. Taylor Swift. That's a nice little indicator. Yeah.
I think he also likes Taylor Ward because he's a Angels fan in real life. Because Horatio actually made the prospect. He just ended up drafting him too.
Oh, nice. And
actually, maybe he traded him. Yeah, he traded him. Sorry.
That eye is elite. Yeah. He's getting a walk 17.6% of the time, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. No, he's got an amazing walk rate. I feel like I don't know if I still cannot tell if he's good.
Yeah.
I still cannot tell he's good. We should talk about what happened this season before we run out of time.
Yeah. I think he's a good player, but age-wise, I'd be concerned that when that eye drops, he might struggle. Especially.
Yeah, although I tend to age really well.
Yeah. Right. So I think I'm taking. My brain tells me Yankees take it 4-2.
Okay, I'm gonna say Yankees. Yeah, I think it goes to 7, and I also think it's not at all a one-sided affair. Even though we're both picking Yankees, just that they think that they have a slightly better chance to win.
Yeah,
and
I think statistically, because of how consistent their lineup is, there's a higher probability they do well. But if the Phillies get hot, who knows?
The Phillies have a better chance of sweeping. The Yankees have a better chance of winning, is how I would phrase it. If the series is one-sided, I'm expecting the Phillies to win. If it's not, then I'm expecting the Yankees to win.
Yeah.
Do
you want to talk about awards? The award season?
Yeah. We haven't opened award voting yet, right? Or did we open it? I don't remember.
We have opened award voting.
We have. Okay. We normally didn't. Joseph started open. We normally didn't start opening up until after the World Series. Joseph last year opened it up really early, which I'm fine with. Like I don't have an issue. I just All right, so yeah, there's some interesting awards. The one I am looking at is Paul Pixel. I was talking about him a bit earlier, right?
Yeah.
But
is that the Gold Glove in NL?
Yeah, it's a Gold Glove in the NL for catchers. So him versus Cacciarini is a really interesting discussion this year, right? So Pixel has 7 runs from framing and 9.7. Sorry, 7 runs from zone rating and 9.7 from framing. So let's just call that 17, right?
Yep.
Cacciarini has 24 framing, negative 0.30. So let's call that 24, right? Yep. So he was better by those metrics, but it wasn't a huge difference. But look at this thrown out percentage. 70, over 70%. Like,
that's crazy.
People may not appreciate how ridiculous that is. Like, Yadier Molina career rate is like 45, and he never beat 2/3. Right? Like, this is historic, in my opinion. And it kind of sucks that he didn't get just a bit more frame value to get the argument. He still might get it, honestly. I think he still has a very good shot. It's just, a little frustrating. I think people will overvalue framing when there are other things that matter,
For sure. I think you have to look at it holistically, and I think that zone rating really does need to be paid attention to this time. I mean, even if you're looking at old catching statistics, efficiency, there's a 0.200 difference between the two of them. And even if you are a new school guy, that does make a difference.
Yeah. No, they were.
Pixel made one error.
One error.
Entire season.
Do you have any guys you think that are up for awards right now?
From the Mariners?
Yeah, from the Mariners.
Or just in general? So Mariner-wise, I don't think we're looking at any of the big awards. I think the big awards are quite certain, really, this year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
For MVP with the AL, we're looking at Jim Dean. I don't think there's a question.
Yeah, I'm not voting for someone else.
I think for NL, we're looking at Orozco.
Yeah, I agree. Those are very obvious to me.
Cy Young wise, I think it's maybe a little bit closer than.
Yeah, in the NL, it's not. Yeah, it's WAR wise, it's closer for sure. I think I'm probably going Hall in the AL, and then same. I don't know. I'll probably homer vote for Jimmy Wolf because he finished third and more.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I am an unabashed homer voter. It's fun. Okay, I want my guys to win awards.
Yeah, that's fair. I think NL wise, I like Rayner.
Okay.
I like Rayner. Then I like Esparza.
So the two WAR leaders. Okay.
Yeah, but then I like Cacciarini.
Cacciarini as what?
Pippa Penny as the third side guy.
Got you. Pippa Penny, what did he do? I will say, I tend to not vote Pirates for pitchers awards at this point because they always overperform. So there is this is not like a being salty thing. This is like an actual demonstrative thing. If you go to their stadium, it's so heavily favored towards lefties that left-handed pitchers will just do obscenely well there because right-handed hitters will not hit well because of the stadium and left-handed hitters will not hit well because of the matchup, right? So lefties from specifically PNC who do not have overwhelming stats are people I tend to not consider heavily. Esparza, same thing. I'm not going to vote for him because I think his.
Sorry, do you have an outside guy for pitchers in the that you're interested in? Someone that
I haven't looked a ton at the ballot yet.
Because I like Desordia.
I do have an outside guy. Actually, this guy might be my vote. I don't know. I'll probably maybe over Wolf. It's hard to say. But I want to say my sleeper pick is Theodore Kelly.
Okay, yeah. The reliever.
Yeah, the reliever. For WAR this year, definitely shoo-in for reliever of the year.
100%.
For WAR this year.
He's on a new contract as well coming up next year.
Unsurprising, but he is a creative player.
He is. And I think if you look at his age, he's 21. He is going to be undoubtedly one of the greatest relievers of all time in this league.
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, I can tell the story of Kelly here. I think it's a bit interesting. So I lost in the World Series that he was made in. He was made from, right? I lost to Patrick in that World Series, the 38 World Series.
Who were the teams?
The Voodoo beat me over in I believe 6 games.
So Voodoo Giants.
Yeah, I believe, or maybe I lost to maybe it was the Cole Kelly one I lost actually. I lost one of the. Oh yeah, sorry, that was not the. I lost the one 2 years later that he won. My bad.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's not the main part. So what I think is cool about this is that Patrick had a son right before he won the World Series on July 26, 2022, whose name is Theodore Kelly. And he wanted to play with the game. I thought that was I am the one who shouted out that it was almost a perfect like age for it, to put his exact age in there. If he wanted to do that. Some people I know would not care, and some people would care a lot, about that kind of thing. I personally wouldn't, because who's looking at statsplus.net/PBC to get personal information on people, but he's really good, and this is why he was drafted at 16, right? Is because he needed to be about a year younger than it would have naturally been.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Now, I think my outside guy is Sordia, the Dodgers pitcher.
Sorry, your what? Your outside guy is who?
Sordia.
That's a good one.
Dodgers, age 30. Let me make this clear. I don't think he's the best pitcher in this.
Yeah.
But I think he's had an outstanding year results-wise.
See, I just can't vote for Dodger players for moral reasons. So, unfortunately, he will not be. Yeah, on my ballot. But it's just I don't know. It's more fun if you homer vote, is what I have found, because, I don't know, awards voting is always stupid in real life. Why try to vote perfectly? It doesn't make sense when 19 guys vote for the same person. That literally never happens unless the result is so overwhelming like this year in MVP voting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But what will frequently happen in online leagues is, say Reyna had 6.0 WAR, right? He will get 80 to 85% of the first place votes if he has that big of a WAR lead. People I do not think understand WAR sometimes, because the stat does have error bars, right? Yeah. Especially when it comes to defensive value. So it's just very, in pitchers less so, that matters less. But it's less erratic for pitchers, what I'm trying to say. So I just think people maybe overlook it more, in awards voting when it's a notable lead.
Let's have a couple of look at some rookies.
In
the AL, Gumlaw, absolutely incredible first season. Looks to be a cornerstone of that franchise going forward.
Oh yeah, Gumlaw is great. Where did they get him? You keep talking. I'm looking at Gumlaw.
Yeah. We've got Gumlaw, who's been great. I think the AL has been stacked with great rookies this year. Carrillo, the Rule 5 pick from the Mariners, playing for the Twins. With a great season. Longacre comes in mid-season and smashes 40 home runs.
Longacre, he's a burgeoning superstar. He will not win Rookie of the Year. It definitely should be Gumlaw. But for which rookie will have the best career, I'd probably pick Longacre.
I think Longacre takes Rookie of the Year potentially even in the NL, or at least is competing there.
Maybe Resendez is really good.
He is good.
I was hoping Eason had a shot, but Resendez kind of blew up at the end of the year, and Eason fell off a bit. He was on pace for 6 WAR through the All-Star break.
I think, who else have we got that's interesting? Josh Reed is an outstanding defensive player for the Twins.
Yeah.
Honestly, the amount of Twins players on that Rookie of the Year ballot in the AL is concerning for the state of the AL.
Oh yeah, for sure. There was one player Anthony called up. I believe didn't he call up a 19-year-old?
19-year-old.
I thought he did. It's not currently on the
ballot.
JJ Guerrero. Yeah, JJ Guerrero got 11
play appearances this year.
And to be fair, he should have been called up because he's definitely ready.
Yes, he was injured if I remember correctly.
Oh, was he? Okay, that would make sense.
Yep. Yeah, keep talking.
Yeah, only for 6 weeks, but that's why he's only there for the last 2 weeks of the season. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Guerrero is just going to be stupid.
In terms of we also had, of course, Danny Sharp come up to the big leagues for the Mariners at shortstop, former number 1 prospect.
How did he
do? He had a rough start. He came into the league, hit some homers in his first week, but after that it was a slow decline to sort of 88 WRC. His average wasn't great. He wasn't hitting for power, and he struggled. But I think towards the end of the season, if you look at his batting stats, his splits, we've got he comes into the league in around July.
So we had a big slump in July and August, basically.
56, 63. Well, that was when he came into the league. So June has his AAA stats.
If you do league scope, it should just exclude that. So you played 6 games in June and had a hot first week.
Hot first week. And then September, he began to come back. Didn't have a great playoffs, but that was against a good Voodoo side.
Yeah. And also, the thing with Danny Shoop is because of where he was drafted, I don't think you need him to even hit his potential to be happy with him, right? No. If he ends up like a 60 power, 60 obviously you want him to, but if he's like a 5 WAR, 60 contact, 60 power shortstop, you're pretty happy with that, I think.
I mean, quite frankly, while I would have, I'd love him to improve. I'd love that power rating to really develop, because that will make him, MVP candidate. But
for sure.
I take him right now. His stats, his ratings right now at shortstop.
Yeah,
that's better than anything else I've got right now. And
I like Hogan more.
Hogan, yeah,
I like Hogan.
Hogan's good.
Plug with plug isn't bad.
He's going to be. We'll talk about him for Silver Slugger because he is definitely on the list for that. But
we should wrap it up soon though. I have to talk for another 2 hours tonight, so I can't talk forever.
Cool. Right. So other stats. So Golden Glove, I think, has been pretty simple. We've got just in general best zone rating player wins. I don't know if there's been any outstanding seasons.
And what's
Geller, while not great, not sure if there's been any outstanding seasons, bar maybe Pixel.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pixel's
good. I mean, Pixel. I would say the argument again. This is for Silver Slugger. You said.
For Gold Glove.
Golden Glove, yeah. Golden Glove, yeah. Let's start there. Pixel. I'm voting Pixel. I think Caterini has an argument. I would not be disappointed with either win. I mean, I want Pixel to win, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if Caterini won. I will say, I think caught stealing is maybe a little underrated today because it's not as valuable as framing. But when someone is that obscenely good at it, it should be taken into account.
It has to be noticed. I think in terms of other interesting performances on the Gold Glove, another Anthony Caterini, first base for Voodoo with over 10 zone rating at first base.
Yeah, he's Yeah, he's another creative prospect, believe it or not. Kind of surprising given his name. But he has won a lot of Gold Gloves. Check in game.
Oh, and he will win every year until he declines.
Yes. He has won 11 Gold Gloves, which is pretty reasonable, honestly, because look at his defense. He is this is a player that, like, if he was made, I think even like 2 months earlier, he could not have done this. So it used to be the case that so in real life baseball, lefties do not play second, third, or short. It's just not a thing they do. They are almost all. It's more has to do with, like, it's not like they can't do it. It's like it's more advantageous to have a righty do it, and if you need to be better defensively than the player at literally every single level, because they will never move you back to second, third, or short. And
I think they have to, if they do hit left, they still have to field with the right. So you do see that with some guys.
Yeah, some guys do that. It's up to the player, though. It's not like a mandated thing or anything.
No, I think it's quite common in Japan to see guys hit left and play right with the guy in the infield. Because
it's very common. It's also used to be a lot more common in real life. So this was a very, very common thing, like the 90s, 2000s. It's basically because you're closer to first base.
Yes.
Which is so hilarious.
Classic example.
Yeah. Although also lefties do have a lot of trouble hitting certain pitches, and like matchups matter,
yeah.
So, but yeah. So, anyways, the point I was trying to make though. So in real life, lefties just don't play second, third, short. Outdoor baseball, because they did it occasionally, didn't stop lefties from doing that. So what people would do is they would take very good defensive first basemen, put them at second base, and they would do well. It kind of just led these scenarios where you could just put whoever you wanted to at second. So 80 range, 95 air would have been incredible at second base if you would. But they changed it like 2 or 3 months into a version, and I believe Katarina is made right after that because people are abusing in a perfect team, and they didn't like that because they care about perfect team.
Yeah, I like money.
Yeah, exactly.
I think looking at the Silver Slugger, there's some interesting ones in the AL. I think you've got Villarreal potentially for first base in the AL.
Yeah,
that's a strong bat.
Yeah, I look at the NL. You look at the AL. The NL has a really interesting race at second base. So Eason and Ogden are basically identical here. Okay, we got, at least in terms of the advanced stats, they have WOBA 344 versus 345, weighted runs created plus 118, WAR 4.4 versus 4.4. Now they're very different types of hitters. Eason hit over 300 while Ogden hit 30 home runs. But it's just interesting how similar they are. Obviously, I'm going to vote for Eason because he's my player. But
yeah, we've got an interesting race in a couple of interesting ones actually. We've got third base in the AL. We have the sort of, is it third base? Not third base. Where is it? Shortstop. With Davidson and Limage, both of them, only 4 points between them in WRC plus. Davidson hits for average, Limage for on base, and I think I'd tip it towards Davidson. Limage has had an unbelievable postseason though.
Yeah, although I will say I do not use that in awards voting.
Of course.
For if you care about realism. In real life, they actually do awards voting this like the day after the regular season ends.
Yeah.
And then they seal it. So Lemage. I mean, it's hard to say. Like at this point, they're so close with the advanced stats. I think you want to look at other things offensively, and Lemage was better stealing. I don't know if that's the best argument, but I do want him to win. Former Giant there. Awful trade by me though. I should not have done that, but happens. Sometimes the prospects bust.
I think Davidson's hit a lot more toward. He's got a lot more, hits that have gone second base. Double the triples as well. So I think that's an interesting thing to look at. But I think either one of those is a correct choice there, really.
Yeah. I wouldn't have any complaints about either.
The other interesting ones at second base, there's very few guys on the ballot. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, only 10 guys on the ballot. And of those guys, only 2 are even hitting above average in the league for WRC+.
I think Hendricks got a good shot then.
I think Hendricks is a shot. The only concern I have with my guy getting it is that he did only play 400 plate appearances.
Yeah, that's fair. But
I think.
I mean, I can check. I mean, I won't, but I can check the result. How people voted. I'm curious. Well, I won't.
But yeah, Hendricks versus Snyder is interesting. I think.
Yeah, I mean, I probably go Hendricks. Like, rate, but like he played less, but notably better hitter. For that period. Snyder honestly was a bit of an accumulator this year. 727 plate appearances is a ton. So like,
and I think the other interesting race we've got is at left field with Hogan versus Gibson. So you're looking at Hogan, who we talked about earlier. He is an elite contact hitter, 80 contact, and he gives himself a chance because he avoids Ks 75%. This guy is a captain. He's not great defensively, and he's only got 50 power on the home run swing, and he's not going to walk a ton with only 40. But he's put together a great season, bouncing back from his year in 2042. I think
that's not a good year for him. So I think is really, I like how they have identical OPSs. That's really funny to me.
It is cool.
Yeah. It's another one of these dichotomies we see where it's basically average versus power, It's like 3 or 4 of these awards voting seem where it comes down to, do you care more about batting average or home runs?
Yeah.
LeMage being another one.
For sure.
Nice, David.
I think, Hogan's been. I think the fact that he's broken the Mendoza line by that much is notable for me. Obviously, I'm going to be a bit of a homer.
Wait, what do you think the Mendoza line is?
Traditionally, it's been 300, but now I'm thinking.
No. Sorry, I don't want to read that. Mendoza line is not. Mendoza line is a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's 200. And the idea is there's a guy named David Mendoza who would just play hopscotch with that line, right? And the idea is that is the lowest you can hit and still be like, if you hit below that, you cannot do anything at all in the majors outside of pitching, is the idea.
That's it.
Right.
Got it. Yeah.
Like, regardless of what else you do, if you do not hit at least 200, you're fucked. So 300, the standard, like the gold standard of batting average has been 300 for a very, very long time.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Mendoza line is just like picking on one guy named Mendoza, basically.
I think it's maybe, honestly, 170.
What, sorry?
The new Mendoza line, I think 170.
Maybe. I mean, like, Joey Gallo kind of spits in the face of the Mendoza line, like more real life, but it's hard. Schwarber's another one, yeah. And if we want to go a PBC example, Doherty, the third, is another guy where his OPS is average 194, OPS plus 118,
Yep.
So he was a shortstop. But look how many years he led the league in strikeouts for, what was that, 8 straight years now? Pretty nuts. Only 1 year he batted over 200. That, by the way, is another one of my draft picks. So I'm basically turning into Anthony at this point. Jesus Christ. Talk about my draft picks all the time.
Yeah, I think you can be forgiven for choosing either. Your mic's doing the thing again. There we go.
No, I mean, it was a very bad draft. I think he was definitely the pick, and it was a first overall pick too. So,
and do you want to talk about GM of the year?
Yeah, and then we'll. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go? It's probably.
Yeah, I think we'll leave everything else for now. We might do another one where we talk about the season as a whole for other teams and the unofficial awards.
I mean, I don't know if I can join you every week for sure, but I can definitely join sometimes.
We can do.
We'll talk about that more. No, I'm looking at that draft now. Jeff Gerard actually is the best player from that draft. But he's 3 years older than Doherty, but he's the guy I probably should have taken. But he boosted post-draft. He was a very good prospect at the time, but his contact went from like 70 to like 90 after the draft. So.
Okay, so GM of the year wise, I think you have to be looking at, obviously you've got the guys who've boosted their teams win-wise a lot. Williams done a great job at getting his team up there. Greg with the Orioles. Then I think just in terms of looking at teams that have made some success this year from positions that maybe they haven't boosted their wins that much this year. But it's a gradual process. I think you're looking at Anthony with the Twins. I think you're looking at Joseph with the Sultanes.
Yeah, those are two good ones. I'm going to shout out something you haven't actually mentioned yet, which is Ryan. 114 wins is incredible.
Yes.
Plus 13 win delta is among the best. It's top 5. I don't know if he had like any insane moves this year specifically, but it's also like very rarely about that. But he like won the most games by a massive margin.
Yes, I think you have to acknowledge the greatness of the Cincy season. I think if you just talk briefly, what a shock it was to see them bomb out of the playoffs the way they did.
Yeah, for sure. But anything can happen in baseball. It's a really random sport. And the other team, here's a team that I think. Well, I think he's a very good GM, but I'm not trying to. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve or anything. Someone who might be maybe a bit overrated by some of the more commonly used metrics is the Yankees. The plus 14 win delta is a bit of a mirage here. They had a minus 10 Pythagorean record last year. So really they were only building off a 96, 95 talent win team, like 95, 96 talent. So not maybe as flattering, but it was still a very, very, very good season. And honestly, if he wins the World Series, I'll probably vote for him over Ryan. But this is the one award where I will take postseason stuff into account. Because it's like if you make the postseason, that's something the GM should be rewarded for. Like that's their goal, right? Advancing farther in the postseason. So.
And then I think Eric is the other guy that you kind of need to mention with 14 wins gone up and a great season with the Diamondbacks.
Man, Eric's great. He's a really, really nice guy. He definitely deserves it. I don't want to I try not to play favorites too much, but I was rooting for him in the NLC after the divisional series.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah. All right.
He hasn't won here in a long time. He's another founding member. Anything else? Any closing thoughts about your team or GM? Actually, anything else about GM of the year first? Sorry.
GM of the year. I think I've said everything I've got for that.
Any closing thoughts then?
Closing thoughts on the year. I think it's been an interesting year. The AL West was fascinating to watch. With multiple teams, making a splash. I think, the NL East was sealed very early. The Pirates maybe didn't get quite so much attention for the season they've had because of the Reds. And obviously the Phillies flew right under the radar. I think, not to toot my own horn, but the Mariners making playoffs despite cutting an enormous amount of payroll, their rotation being made out of duct tape, and massively outperforming their Pythagorean, their what's it called?
Pythagorean.
Yeah, massively outperforming their Pythagorean.
I mean, that is often like not a good sign. I feel like I should say
it's not a good sign, but I think it's a good sign, a good indication of how the players played this year.
That's fair.
I think every indication was that they would do badly. The fact that they've succeeded is certainly a surprise. But it's nice to see, and it was nice to see game 163 as well for the league.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I like those. They happen maybe like one every 2 or 3 seasons. I would say it's not that rare actually. I mean, honestly, it kind of makes sense because, like, your goal is to generally win your goal in Outdoor Baseball is to win as many titles as possible, right?
Yeah.
So, in order to do that, you want to maximize your chances of winning the division while also maximizing the assets you have going forward, right?
Yes.
So you don't want to overinvest sometimes, and like you can, and there are times where you want to, and like I think my retro league baseball team is an example of like when you want to go all in or quote unquote all in, but where was I going? Oh, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I have no idea what I was saying. I'm sorry. I completely lost my train of thought.
That's fine. All right. Well,
I'm sure I had a decent point to make.
Yeah, I think the last thing we can just touch on is we look at the prospects ranking at the moment. We've got another Mariners number 1, Esteban Ospina, the young first baseman, has boosted.
He's good. He's 19, so we'll see, right?
But that profile is strong. And he's had his first season now out of the international campus. Not a great season, but he's got time.
If we're just looking at ceiling, I don't want to look at Dev because that seems a bit but if we're just looking at ceiling, it's definitely a little complicated. I would say McDonald has a really good ceiling. I would say Skandrick has a really good ceiling. Ospina's the best of the sort of like bad fielder types, though.
For sure.
I
think Walker is an interesting one. The Rangers first pick.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Yeah, I know there's.
And obviously, Moran, a slightly worse fielder, being taken in the first round, third by the Iguanas. He is now number 2.
He's very good too. I think, again, if we're just talking about ceiling, he is a little bit worse than Ospina. I mean, it's close. Like, I don't think he adds a lot of defensive value. I think Ospina has better. I mean, obviously, Ospina has better power and eye. So
for sure.
They're both lefties. Does Moran have notable splits? He has minor splits.
And the other thing to say about prospect rankings is a moment of silence for the Colorado Rockies prospects with no one in the top 100. That's going to be a tough situation for the future there.
Looks like maybe they have a booster though.
And congratulations to the A's, who are way out in front at number 1 in the league for prospects.
I don't know if Luke is gonna have time to listen to this, but I'm sure he would appreciate that. They got a lot of guys. I think they could legitimately produce a all-star at center field, first base, second base, a DH, a left fielder, a right fielder, a third base. Like, they could legitimately, out of their farm system, produce 5 or 6 starting all-stars in the lineup.
It's crazy.
Just from their farm, not including, any players they have on the team right now. And I think they have a few, like Ronnie Wallace is not bad. He's not insane, but he's like a good build-around piece. Not like build-around. He's like a good supplementary piece for your build-around, Like, if he's one of the worst hitters in your lineup, you're doing really well. So yeah, the A's I think going forward are going to be really scary for you, especially because you're in their division.
Of course. And the only last thing I want to talk about is are there any postseason performers that have caught your eye?
What? I'm gonna look at the postseason stats really fast. Where do I find
Nichols has been strong on the Yankees in postseason. I think Moyeda has been unbelievable for the Voodoo. 4.33 average, 5.53 OBP, 5.67 slugging. It's a tiny sample size, but that's big.
Yeah. Jim Dean had a performance. He had a 381 batting average. Just looking at that really fast.
Dave Owens on the Diamondbacks with 3 home runs.
LeMage is at 7 home runs.
Average.
Yeah.
LeMage is 7.
Benegas is gonna on the pitching side. Benegas has had a great postseason. 1.56 ERA. Baxter on the Diamondbacks now eliminated, but he had a really good postseason. 1.98 ERA over 13 innings.
Yep.
Yeah, LeMage with 1085 or 1045 postseason OPS, pretty helpful.
Yeah. Ebenel, I'd like to point out on the Mariners, came up in September and he's hit at least 2 grand slams already. This guy is
clutch,
really clutch.
Yeah, there are clutch ratings in the game,
Yeah,
they can happen. All right.
All right. Well, I think that wraps everything up.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was fun. Next time we'll probably be talking more about the overall season and the future going forward, and I think probably looking a bit more at the unofficial awards, and obviously having a look at postseason with the free agents. But I think that wraps it up. Anything else you want to say?
No, not really.
Right.
I'll see you guys soon. Bye.
See you soon.